Just double check. We are recording and live streaming, so good to go.
Excellent, thank you very much. So I will call to order the October 9th, 2024 regular board meeting of the Central Oregon Community College Board of Directors. And we will start with the land acknowledgement. We would like to thank the beautiful land our campuses reside on. We would like to acknowledge that the beautiful land our campuses reside on are the original homes of the Wasco and the Warm Springs people. They ceded this land to the US government in the Treaty of 1855. The Paiute people were forcibly moved to the Warm Springs Indian Reservation starting in 1879. It is also important to note that the Klamath Trail ran north through this region to the Great Celila Falls trading grounds. Descendants of these original people are thriving members of our communities today. We acknowledge and thank the original stewards of this land. May we have a roll call, please?
Yes, we may. We have Laura Kraska Cooper.
Here.
We have Erica Scaffold.
Here.
Joe Krenowitz.
Yes.
Alan Unger.
Here.
Aaron Murs.
Here.
Aaron Foot Morgan.
Here.
Jim Porter.
Present.
Lori Chesley. I should have skipped you. I apologize. Gonna come back. Wait for Zach to finish his fight. Present. Okay. Laura Bomey.
Here.
Alicia Moore.
Here.
Anne Marie Hamlin.
Here.
Michael Lalonde.
Here.
We have Amy Ward.
Yes.
Christy Walker.
Here.
Shauna Berry.
Here.
Josh Clausen.
Here online.
Paul Taylor. Here. Kyle Matthews. Here. Tony Russell. Here. And Jeremy Green. Here. And Ruth Solberg, I am here. We're good to go.
Thank you again. All right, so for agenda changes, I know that we need to take item number 4 off of the agenda. Lori and I talked a little bit yesterday and we agreed that we're gonna do a little bit more, or they're going to do a little bit more on that one, and it will be ready in November. So if you want to just remove number 4 off of the information items, so it's set under Roman 7, number 4. Thank you. Are there any other changes for the agenda? Okay, hearing none, we will go to public comment. Do we have any members of the public here in the room who would like to make a comment? Hearing none, do we have any online?
There is no public comments.
No public.
Sorry to interrupt. I
Yep.
just got a text from someone who's trying to, oh, now it's working. Trying to get online, it wasn't working and now it is.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you
So-
for saying that.
Great, thank you. Okay, then we will move to the consent agenda. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from the last meeting? Awesome. Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I so moved.
Second.
Okay, Joe moved and Aaron seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
All right.
Any opposed, please indicate by saying no. Noting none, motion carries unanimously. So we move to information items and we start with the monthly budget status. And I believe that this is just a matter of whether we have questions for Michael. Anyone? Okay, noting none, we'll move to new hire reports, and this is a matter of whether we have questions for Laura. Noting none, we will go to the Redmond campus update, which I'm assuming is gonna be Amy.
Well, welcome to Redmond campus. Thank you all for being here. I'm Amy Ward, your Redmond campus director, and I'm the interim manufacturing technology program director as well. I'm going to give you some updates about what's been going on and some of the great work my colleagues have been achieving here on campus. And then Jeremy's going to tell you about where we're going next after this. So the good news is that enrollment continues to trend upwards. We're at about 8%, 9% increase over last year with credit and non-credit students, and we expect that number to continue to increase as we offer more of our non-credit opportunities and our ABS and AGP classes continue to enroll as well. I think part of the reason why we have seen this enrollment increase, and especially here and also in Madras and Prineville, is the great work that our deans and chairs have been doing to provide a comprehensive schedule on our branch campuses. We see students here sticking around, coming back term after term, which is so rewarding. Here on the Redmond campus, we have a wide variety of transfer classes. We're happy to show you around sometime. We've got a full science lab, got an anatomy and physiology lab, lots of opportunities for transfer students. And then we also offer some great opportunities for our CTE programs, primarily industrial trades, apprenticeship, automotive, machining and welding, our manufacturing program, as well as our vet tech program, which is just north of here, but I claim it as part of Redmond campus as well. And I think I said here apprenticeship and apprenticeship as well. In addition to all of the great academic resources we have a full host of supports for students to encourage their success and their well-being. This is a picture of the Redmond Student Commons with only probably a slightly edited sunset in there. It's from a couple of years ago on a clear day. I was driving home when my team member took that photo, and he said that you could see Mount Hood just shining like a diamond off the other side. That's not the point of this slide, though. This is the Student Commons. It's a space that Jeremy started creating, and I had the pleasure of finishing when I came to the college in 22. It's a spot for students to lounge around, hang out, hop on a computer, print something, check out technology reserves, pick up library holds, a place for a student to feel comfortable and welcome in between their classes. We know that the more students stay on campus, the better they do academically.
Amy, can I ask you a question? When you talk about library on a hold, so can you request a book from Bend and pick it up here? And how quickly does it usually get here?
Depends, but usually it's like the next day or two. It's pretty quick. We also have technology holds available, so students that need computers, all sorts of options as well. And then in this room, we have offices connected to this big space for our advising, financial aid, e-learning. Here in building 3, we have Melissa Salachi, who runs our STEP program, which provides training and employment for students who are on SNAP. We also have our food pantry, great support from our multicultural center with a bunch of Christie's folks coming up regularly to be on campus, and tutoring and testing. And our math tutoring sees a lot of action. And then another great resource that I'm thrilled to announce is coming to Redmond is an outpost of the Clothing Connection. So we've been working with Angie Cole to we've previously just had a couple of rags and students could help themselves, but now we're taking over what used to be the old bookstore. We're going to reorganize it into a spot for the Clothing Connection. And we have support from faculty, some folks from the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, some volunteers and student government that will help open that space. We'll be open a couple of times, maybe once a week, starting this fall, and then hope to have more opportunities moving forward. And that's going to open a soft launch on October 23rd from noon to 3. You're all welcome to come. And then later that day, we have this family-friendly open house from 3 to 6 p.m. on Wednesday, October 23rd. We're going to have some great academic program demonstrations, resource fair from college resources, snacks, giveaways. They're going to do a scavenger hunt, and story time for families in both English and Spanish. This showcases our growing collection of children's literature. We've got some great new titles in Spanish and English that are connected to our CTE programs here on campus. And some of this is funded by a recent grant from Libros for Oregon. So we're thrilled about it. We've got a great team that's been working on this project. And then I really love all of the wonderful community education that happens here on this campus. I know you heard from Stephanie earlier this summer, but here in Redmond, she organized 22 youth camps, serving over 200 youth in our community. And that included STEM learning, leadership, mock trial, model United Nations, art, dance, and Mayan culture. We hosted during the last academic year about 40 separate adult enrichment classes that served 347 community members. And these include art, language, yoga is really popular, writing, and also our DIY home electrical and carpentry classes. And then finally, the centerpiece of all of this is Central Oregon Summer Spanish Immersion, which is a 4-day comprehensive, all-in opportunity to learn Spanish. We hosted it here for the 3rd year in a row, and we had about 60 students over a 4-day period. I participated with my 16-year-old son, and the first day we ended up in the wrong class, learning about alpacas, all in Spanish, and it would be amazing. I do not speak Spanish, but I can tell you how to find a good alpaca. The next slide. Brandy Danson is here. She is our apprenticeship program manager. She and her team are located on the Redmond campus, and I'm so proud of the work they've done. She's had about 54 credit students, 96 non-credit students. She has just hired a manufacturing pre-apprenticeship program administrator. So he will develop a manufacturing pre-apprenticeship program that mirrors our first term for our manufacturing students. And he's doing that through a HEC Strategic Innovation Grant. And then we also have a new construction pre-apprenticeship program administrator, Greg, and he'll lead the continued growth of the credit and non-credit construction pre-apprenticeship program under the Youth Development Oregon Grant. Last year, they built several tiny homes for Oasis Village with partnership with COCC, Oasis Village, and Redmond Proficiency Academy here in Artec. They built it inside, they lived it out. It was really fascinating to watch that whole project come together. And then I had to show you a picture of the sheet. I worked so hard to get this picture. We're always looking for ways to reduce our carbon footprint. And Noel in sustainability came up with this great idea. So the land is owned by COCC, another party, Clean Capital, leases out the solar arrays. That offsets nearly 80% of our electrical use on campus, but it's all dirt underneath. So we've got noxious weeds and all of the stuff growing up. And so then they brought in another company who subcontracted with Scott Martin, who brought in all of these goats, and they were here for, oh, sorry, these are sheep. If you would have seen my interview, you would have heard me try to say sheep thinning several times. But ultimately, it saves us some money. It's a great way to reduce our carbon footprint. It's just really fun. They were here for a week and they did a great job. So the next slide. I've been working with John Graham on the MATC Revitalization Strategic Plan Action Team. This work is looking not just at the expansion of this facility, which is going to be incredible for the program, but also about the inner workings. We know that revitalization comes from within. So we're talking about facilities, equipment, ensuring that we have thriving partnerships. Our faculty is about to run a whole bunch of the programs through curriculum, and then looking at stacking certificates and non-credit customized trainings. Every employer I speak to talks about the need for employability skills, and they say that in all sorts of different ways, but what they mean is someone that is responsible, shows up on time, has good personal hygiene, is ideally a critical thinker and a really great communicator. And we are doing a lot of work to instill those skills in our students. I had an advisory board member who essentially said, sure, we can talk about the importance of alarm clocks and showers, but it really all distills down to personal pride, taking pride in yourself, pride in your work and your work ethic. And so To that end, we have essentially ended the self-paced open lab concept for the program, with the exception of a few upper level classes, and that's really because of space and equipment needs. Almost all of our classes are the traditional lecture and then lab format. We have two new faculty members, Gabriel Franco, who started last year teaching machining, and Brian Keachley, who came to us from Chemungara Community College as our new full-time welding instructor. And we're thrilled to have this new team to move forward towards revitalization. So we've got a pretty large committee, and we spent a lot of time talking about what is revitalization, what does it mean? And we identified these three components that will help us be revitalized: faculty recruitment and retention, industry responsive curriculum, attracting and retaining diverse student populations. So we hired a new full-time instructor. We're working to develop a schedule that prioritizes student learning while maintaining an appropriate work-life balance for faculty, so we're not. The industry responsive curriculum will be presenting our plan changes at our advisory board meeting later this month and soliciting feedback. Happy to talk about that in more detail if you would like offline. And we do lots of outreach to attract and retain diverse student populations. We bring high school groups here on Fridays when the shop isn't running and get the students in welding, whether they have ever welded before or not. They're gonna light a torch and make some sparks. Really fun. We go to the skilled trades fair, of course, do lots of outreach. And then we've also partnered with our adult basic skills program to provide an IET, integrated educational training opportunity for our students. So in our manufacturing processes class, the manual machining class, which requires a significant amount of understanding about measurements, dimensions, tolerances, math, and we found that students can really struggle there. So we have an adult basic skills instructor who is embedded in the class, learning alongside the students, supporting their work and developing some curriculum to support that math learning, and then also providing a study group for the hour before class once a week that any student in the manufacturing program is welcome to go to. And she can help you with your transfer classes, with your math, your writing, your communications. She can help you understand your measurements if you have questions about that. So really providing that support that I talked about earlier to ensure that students have everything they need. And I think that's my last slide, so I'll pass it to Jeremy.
Thank you, Amy. So tagging right on to what Amy's been sharing about the MATC revitalization, we wanted to bring you up to speed on where we are with the actual building remodel and new construction. So if you remember back a year ago at this meeting, we had presented sort of an idea of where we were headed, and at that point in time been working with an architectural firm out of Portland, paid for it through
Future Ready Oregon.
Future Ready Oregon dollars, that's correct. And we spent a year working with them to come up with what we think is a fairly well dialed in plan, based on what we can do with the remodel, based on the budget that we are working towards, and based on the new three-tiered stool there. In that regard, and again, there are tons of people that have worked on this project, Amy. If you want to name them off at all, or just suffice it to say there's a lot.
You, me, Josh
Josh,
Clausen,
Gabe.
faculty.
Yeah, lots of faculty.
Mhm.
The MATC revitalization committee has been brought up to speed on it, and the outside stakeholders on your advisory teams have been brought up to speed on it as well. The other interesting thing that occurred about midway through our plan was Amy was able to take the team and tour 3 or 4 other community college facilities. If I look back for a minute.
Gabe, our machining instructor. Gabe, our machining instructor, and Nigel, who manages our tool room, and I did a couple of trips out to PCC OMIC and Scappoose Chemeketa Community College, Clackamas Community College, and Lynn Benton Community College. And we met with deans and program directors, toured their facilities, made some great connections, and ultimately came back thinking that we're on the right path.
On the right path.
Yeah.
Jeremy, what are the major differences between the concept we were shown a year ago?
Yep, so that's what I'm gonna show you real quick. So this is the existing footprint of the existing building. We're sitting here right now. And where we're primarily looking at, underutilized space in this section. And then how can we better utilize this space with the new and emerging programs that Amy and her team are putting together. So that's a picture of the existing building. If you wanna go one more ahead, Lucas. This shows what the current concept is. So you can see a complete remodel of this space with the inclusion of locker rooms and probably an additional teaching space. Additional teaching space, sort of clean room type space, computer, lab, as well as quality control. A double size space for CNC, which was one of the primary goals of this whole project, was our CNC space is just vastly too small.
Mhm.
We needed to double it or more, and we were able to accomplish that. Additional flex space here, which is where like machining can exist, and as these programs change over time, as industry needs and such change, this will be built to be flex space, so new programs can come in as older programs maybe phase out based on industry, and then a much larger welding lab compared to what they have right now. With the addition of a classroom in between, so instructors can have access to all of the lab spaces while actually being in the classroom, so students can come in and out pretty seamlessly with the tool room, right? And all of this we had worked through, and then when Amy and her team did the tours, it was confirmed that we had actually come up with a model that was very similar, unbeknownst to us, it was very similar to what the other colleges had come up with as well. The additional square footage that we would be adding to the building is about 5,000 square feet, and it's just this portion. We're confined again by budget and space. In terms of how we're gonna push out. And then a little bit of space here, but in total, new square footage is about 5,000 square feet. Remodeled square footage is about another 8,000 to 9,000 square feet. If you go to the next slide, Lucas, the other thing that you can see from this angle is we are adding a completely new outside working area. So as they would need to open these big garage bay doors up, they can move projects outside, work on a cement pad. This is actually partially covered, so we can, for pennies on the dollar, we can increase the area that students and faculty can work. And then roll everything back inside when we would need to, but fall and spring terms, the weather is generally nice enough that faculty can utilize outdoor space as well. So that was a way that we could increase space without it staying within the budget parameters.
The benefit of the increased welding space is it will allow us the opportunity to do larger scale projects, to develop more opportunities for fabrication and further build student skills.
Yeah, so you can see it there, this outside. So where are we at in the process with this? We have completed our initial design, scope and budget, and we've started with a picture and a concept that was way over budget. Over the course of the year, we have brought that back down in line with the right number. We will need to realize some additional budget savings as we go through the next iteration of design development, but we're pretty confident that we are really close with this existing design. The project right now is out for RFP. It actually closes on the 10th, so tomorrow it closes. According to Charlotte Andreessen, Director of Risk Management and Contracts, we've had a lot of interest in from architectural firms to take us from design development all the way through construction. RFP closes tomorrow. We'll begin evaluation of those RFPs in the next 2 weeks, hoping to be interviewing firms the first 2 weeks of November. Hopefully then we'll have a proposal or recommendation to come present to you all as a board. At either the November or the December board meeting, we hope to have a firm under contract by the end of the year so that we can get this project moving forward into the next phase.
So what is the current budget?
8 million is what we have, 4 million from the state.
Right.
And 4 million from the college. We know that we're gonna work hard to stay within that 8 million. That is the goal. As is always the goal.
You know, we've all learned some things.
You don't say.
Or maybe
We all
it's
learn
just
things when we
me,
get
just
older.
me, I've learned a few
No, I think
things.
we've all learned.
Because because ultimately and I think what I would also say, is I know Jeremy's working hard to keep this where it should be. But we have to think about things like inflation and things we can't, so I'm gonna go out on a limb. And say it will be a little bit higher than 8 million. I don't know what that is, but I just think. Things happen and inflation happens and. Length of time getting stuff, so how about 8,002,000?
Wow.
You're right, that's not even funny. I'm sorry, but I also want to find people sort of realism here.
Yeah, I think the current budget right now is 8.5 million, just construction costs, so that doesn't include the architectural fees, which would be soft costs. We're working with other budgets for program equipment and some of those other soft cost areas, but we're trying to keep this project, the construction and the architect, through construction phase at around that $8 million mark. And I think we're really close. I think Lori's right, we'll probably end up a bit higher, but I think with Amy's team and under Josh's purview, I think that there is some area to realize some VE savings, that we can get it down below 8 million for sure, at least in construction. And then hopefully be really close with those architects and their soft costs in that area. So we're close. We were at 12.5 million in January, so we've come down 4, which was a pretty substantial feat considering what we would ideally like to have. But the good thing about what I think you're seeing here is this is a model that will greatly enhance what we currently have. It'll create a lot more opportunities for students to thrive in these programs with updated facilities, meeting up the instructional work that Amy and her team are doing right now and have been working on for some time. It aligns with what we heard from industry in terms of needs space-wise. It's designed to be flexible so we can change and adapt the space as the industry needs change and adapt. And it's very much in line with what our fellow community colleges are currently operating as well. So we feel like where we've ended up, there'll be some minor changes here and there, but where we've ended up, we're pretty hopeful that we're on the right track. Thank you. Josh, you're online. Do you have anything else to add to that, Josh?
No, just that, we've got a lot of value engineering options and, yeah, I think 8 million and plus a little bit of change is very reasonable.
May I take a moment? I think, I can't tell you how pleased I am by the work that's been done on this, and I want to really thank Amy for her leadership here. I don't want to shock you, but you'd think she's been in manufacturing all her life. She has not.
No, I've learned from our excellent faculty.
There you go. And you've done the research that needs to be done. You're making some changes we know need to be done. And it all takes time, but you are so on the right path, and I'm really, really excited about that. And with pre-apprenticeship and manufacturing. So thank you, everyone. But I think, isn't this Jeremy's last board meeting?
Trader. I mean, congratulations.
Am I correct here?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, so he won't like this, but I just wanna make sure that I thank you for how many years of service to the college?
It'll be 10 in March.
10.
It would have been 10 in March.
And, he is kind of a traitor, but this is,
You can't begrudge.
here's the thing, we hire a lot of great people. And we're still a relatively small institution, and there aren't pathways for everybody to progress, and advance as their skills would warrant. And so I think this is a great opportunity for Jeremy. I'm super happy for him. Sad for me, all of us, but I'm just really so proud of the work you've done and thank you very, very much. Zach, do you want to add anything?
Perfect, yeah, and this year, you're welcome back anytime, we'll cut that ribbon and matters.
You better be there. You better come back for
I
that.
would love to be there for that, yeah. Thank you for the time, and it's been an honor and a privilege truly to spend the last 10 years in such a great institution. I've learned a ton, and I'm excited to take what I've learned on to the next location and kind of replicate the good work that COCC is doing in another state.
We're once again happy to help our four-year partners with.
Yeah, it's an exciting opportunity. As I told Lori a couple months ago, the timing was not perfect, but it was an opportunity that my family and I, we just didn't pass up. I think at the time. So. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy and Jeremy. And Jeremy, on behalf of the board, we're sorry to see you go and we wish you luck. I mean, it's a pretty incredible opportunity, so hard to begrudge you, even if it's just a little bit though we can. No, but seriously, good luck and don't be a stranger. So I believe that our next item is Christy Walker and Shauna Berry. Shauna, it is really nice to see you presenting to the board. We don't get to see you that much, but it's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
And yeah, I'll turn it over to you guys. We always love to see you, Christy.
Well, thank you, everyone. I'm Shauna Berry, HR Operations Manager. I use pronouns she and hers.
And I'm Christy Walker. I use she, her, AF pronouns, and I'm the Dean of Equity and Wellbeing.
Thanks. And tonight we are going to present on the culturally inclusive hiring practices. We've been to the board a couple times, and last October was the latest that we gave updates to this project and to this initiative. And we're going to give some updated data and information and answer questions you might have. And the presentation was included in your board packet. If you have that.
Thank you for that. Yeah, appreciate it.
So a little bit of background. So we know the goal is to increase diversity of our applicant pool and ultimately of our employees. And in 21-22, a small group of us came together to develop some culturally inclusive hiring practice recommendations. And in 21-22, we brought that to the board in May of 2022. We shared that. And then in September of 2023, this important work was added to our strategic plan. So we are part of the strategic plan action team and part of that project, because of the importance of the work. So some might recall the hiring funnel that we talked about. And so the hiring funnel definition of it truly is a funnel. And we start with the number of postings we've had over a period of time. And we take the number of postings and how many applicants for the number of postings. From the number of applicants, how many responded to the voluntary demographic questions? From that group that responded, how many responded that they are applicants of color? And then from that group, how many applicants of color were interviewed? And then the final applicants of color hired. So truly is a step on each one of them at true funnel. So the next slide will show us some data over the last couple of years of this funnel. So if we look at 2023, the blue column, that's how many people responded to the demographic questions. We decided to start the data at this baseline. We don't, postings and the applicants and all that. We started at how many responded to the demographic questions, percentage-wise. And then from there, how many responded that they were applicants of color. So 71% in 2023 responded to the demographic questions, 18% said they were applicants of color. And then from that 18%, 11% were applicants of color were interviewed. And then from the 11%, 40% were actually hired, applicants of color hired. We have 22, 23 full years. The 2024 is year to date. We pulled the data right at the beginning of September. One thing I want to point out on here, which is 71% from responded demographic questions up to 89 for 2024. It's a little bit of a success for us. We took some recommendations and changed the intro to the voluntary demographic questions. We also added the voluntary demographic questions to every application. Before that, the first time someone was applied, They got the chance to answer the questions. Now, every application submitted has that chance.
Shauna, how did you change the intro to it?
Yeah, so before it was just kind of, the application just flowed into it, for lack of a better word. We kind of made an intro of why we're interested in knowing this information. So maybe more of a soft introduction to it. Yeah. Mhm.
Is the 40%, it's 40% of what, the 18%,
So
or
the-
is it?
The 40% here would be up to 17%. So the 17%.
Okay, so that,
40%.
then you took that number and then that's, okay.
Yeah, so it's truly a set, yeah,
Okay.
funnel down, yeah. Any other questions on this? All right.
So when we focus on, certain aspects of Central Oregon, we wanted to show a comparison of the Central Oregon demographics. And this is all based on ethnicity, with our employees, also by ethnicity. And you can see, maybe, but if you can see in your packets, that there has been a steady increase, of our employees of color. And this is the first time that, since I've been doing this work, that we can actually say that we're seeing steady increases. And so I just want to highlight that, a lot of times there are some expectations that this work is going to happen overnight and that we're going to see these significant changes immediately. But I feel like this really shows how this continuous work is actually making, some of these differences, and we're seeing these continuous steady changes. Here we have COCC employees by comparison to students who also self-select to put their ethnicity in the demographic questions. And here, I'm also really happy to say that we can see a steady increase in our students of color that self-identify at COCC. And so if you look across the board, the percentage of students has either stayed the same or increased steadily. You can see though, we show the comparison of the employees to the students, and those numbers have also increased. While we still don't mirror to have true representation of our students with employees, we are seeing significant changes. So this is kind of the call to action with our strategic plan for our action team. And this was added to the strategic plan to build upon what we had already been doing. And so this work had been steadily happening before it was added to the strategic plan, but adding it to the plan and having the action team just help further support in this work and to show the continuous need for these changes and development. And so what we're going to show you now is highlighting some of the activities that we have been doing and will continue to do and focus on in the future. We're only going to highlight a few of these because there are several, few pages of it. And so if there are some that we don't highlight that you're interested in knowing more about, please just let us know and we'll be happy to speak on it.
Okay, so the first one I'm going to talk about is streamlining the application, which is in the complete column. So a little while ago, a group of us really looked at the application and really drilled down to every single question we're asking and said, do we really need to know this? We wanted to remove barriers to applying. We wanted to make it more streamlined for all applicants. So we really took a critical eye to the application itself and probably cut it down probably by a third or a half. And that's been in place for a while now, and we've not seen any negative repercussions from that at all for the information that we're no longer collecting from applicants. So that's been a good win. It takes a lot less time to apply for our position.
With the culturally respectful hiring practices workshop, we've also noted that as complete because this has been an ongoing workshop that we've been, that continuously gets updated with the demographic information, as well as new information as we continue to research. As of now, there has been 204 employees who have taken this workshop. Of those 204 employees, 126 remain at the college. And so of those, that's about 62% of the folks that took the workshop that still remain. The goal is to try to have at least one person who's taken this workshop in every hiring committee, and eventually get to the much more ambitious goal of having everybody on a hiring committee having taken the workshop. And then when we look at the update, to update voluntary demographic questions, and develop a tracking dashboard is, it's really important for us to highlight, not only ethnicity and not only track ethnicity, there's so many, variables that lead to diversity at COCC and Central Oregon in general. And as of now, we've only really been focusing on reporting on ethnicity. And so we want to make sure that we have the opportunities to track other aspects of diversity and not only track it, but to make sure to report it to you all, but also to our community to really reflect the diversity of our college.
Okay, so the first couple here, job descriptions and job postings. And I will say, if I use lingo that you're like, what are you talking about? Please let me know within this daily. So, a job description obviously describes the job or position someone is applying for. We are working, Laura and I and some other folks are working with a company called 3 Years Media, led by Kat Kibben, who is amazing. They are a job posting expert. And what their whole goal is to remove bias and remove barriers from job descriptions and job postings. We just had a focus group yesterday with some colleagues around the college looking at different examples of job postings. And we are looking at revamping that, making them more descriptive in the sense of trying to the person picturing themselves here at the college. Like you will manage a team of 5 people using that language rather than just bullet point statements and facts. So that's a project in process, which is very exciting. So that encompasses both job descriptions and job postings. So the posting themselves is what someone, an applicant sees and they actually apply to. Then the job description is shared with the person hired upon hire to say there might be a few more details in this job description that was on the posting, but this is a truer day-to-day picture. So that's ongoing right now, again with 3 Years Media, which is pretty exciting. And then the next one, the evaluate recruitment reimbursement policy. So right now, we reimburse out of state travelers or out of area travelers up to half up to $400. So our reimbursement policy has not been looked at for years. So we are looking at that. We are doing research of other community colleges in the state to see what their reimbursement policy is, because we know that people have withdrawn from interviews because of the cost of traveling to Central Oregon from wherever they are and our reimbursement policy, because we are very upfront with everyone we invite to interview. We send them the policy right away. So it happens that people are withdrawing. So we want to try to do that better, make that better to invite more people from out of the area into interview. So that's going on right now. We plan to do a budget request with strategic plan funds and then also a general funds request in the future.
So the next focus is on updating the equivalency statement. And while this has already been done, it's important to note that we need to continuously keep an eye on this language because language continuously changes. And so we want to make sure that we're.
Can you describe an equivalency statement?
Yeah, I was just about to.
Okay.
Yes. And so an equivalency statement is, we know that historically, women and people from underserved communities will typically not apply for a job if they don't meet every single marker on the job post, right? So studies have shown that time and time again. And so an equivalency statement gives someone the opportunity to apply even though they don't necessarily meet all that criteria. So it acknowledges that your lived experience, that your work experience, that other opportunities might still lend itself to the job. And that we encourage people to apply even if they don't meet exactly every single marker. So it's about having a statement that really speaks to equity at the college and that we are looking for beyond those specific things. Because there's a lot of things on our job descriptions that people can learn, people can be trained for. And so if we don't give them the opportunity to do so, or even access to apply, then we might miss out on some pretty amazing people. And then the last one I'm going to focus on is to research a concealed application process. And this is something that will take time, and that's why we have it in the future, because technology hasn't fully caught up with some of our initiatives when it comes to equity. And so right now there isn't a perfect system for us to be able to work through that in a way that is not only equitable to our applicants, but also to the people behind the scenes that are having to do the screening. And so, this is a long-term research plan to see what is available and if it's even an option for us to be able to move forward with. But we would like to, at the very least, try and make sure that we're informed about making these decisions.
And then the last one, evaluate advertising data and budget. Okay, I'm gonna get really excited about this because I just had a phone call today with Job Elephant. So we, right now, we work with a company called Job Elephant, which is a third-party company where they actually promote or they recommend sites to put our postings on. So they'll be skill-based or DEI-based. They'll say if they have whole analytics going on, and they'll say, this is where we recommend that you post your jobs to. Recently, Job Elephant integrated with People Admin, and People Admin is our human resource information system. It's where we recruit from and accept applications. They integrated, so we don't have a lot of data yet, but we are going to be able to get more data about where was something advertised, how many people viewed it, how many people clicked on it, how many people actually applied, and then all the way through to hire. So we'll be able to see this person found our job at Higher Ed Jobs, they viewed it, they clicked it, they applied, and they were hired. So we're working through that integration right now, but I talked to Andrea at Job Elephant today, and she actually showed me some data about, okay, you advertised 2 positions on Higher Ed Jobs, you got 7 clicks, it was $4 per click. I mean, it was, all this information. And as that integration grows, we're going to be able to get more and more of that data and to analyze, are we advertising at the right places? And where else can we advertise?
Shona, are there some sites that are like BIPOC focused that they are advertising these on?
Yes.
Like professional groups for, higher education community members of color.
Right, yeah, there are like Native Americans in higher ed,
Yeah.
LGBTQ in higher ed. Yes, there are definitely those sites. And Job Elephant is excellent in the DEI world as well. And they have even bundles of subscriptions we can subscribe to as such. So right now we subscribe to the Chronicle Higher Ed and Higher Ed Jobs as a college. And then each posting that comes up, we work with the hiring manager, say, where else would you want to advertise this? And give them the recommendation.
It's a job. What's the second part of that?
Elephant. Elephant? Like a big animal? Yeah. Yeah, Job Elephant, yeah. They are awesome, yeah. So so the budget, that'll lead, the data and the analytics will lead to some budget decisions as well. Because right now, like I said, we subscribe on an annual basis to the Chronicle and Higher Ed Jobs. And then other sites that the hiring manager wants to advertise to comes out of that department's budget. So we're looking at, can we right size or increase the HR budget to cover some or all of those costs? So that data and analytics will all lead to some budgeting, some different budgets.
So just some key takeaways is, as we continue to see a steady growth in demographics for our BIPOC student community, it really demonstrates the need for us to mirror that with our employees. And then we need to include additional demographics to represent diversity, and that can include geographic location, disability factors, veteran status, gender identity, sexual orientation, things that would really give us a greater picture of who our community is.
And then tools and metrics are getting better data, and this will improve. It's like I just talked about Job Elephant and different data that we're going to be able to pull from them and then from our People Admin system. So we're going to continue to improve that over time. And then more comprehensive approaches tend to produce longer term. So, we have these small implementations and these small successes, but we feel like those are going to lead into larger things as time goes on. That's our whole goal. So we got it.
Questions? Well, that was great. I remember the presentation a year ago, and I'm really excited at all the stuff that you guys have done since then, and we look forward to future reports, but thank you for the really good work. I do have one question about the workshop. I'm wondering if that's something that the next time we go through a presidential search, we should probably do.
Oh, attend the workshop?
Yeah.
Oh,
Great
Too late.
idea.
yeah.
Is the committee, can the hiring committee go through the work and maybe a special workshop plan for them?
I don't think that we can probably get it scheduled for the search committee at this point. We could try.
We could probably share some best practices or an executive
That's,
summary.
that's what I was gonna say, while we probably couldn't arrange a full workshop, we certainly can share some of that information so that folks can.
That would be terrific, because I know our consultant did a really good job of kind of talking through a little bit about bias. You know, because you don't, I mean, I've seen this just in my own career, you know, people say, well, I just don't feel like they'd be a good fit.
Yeah.
No, that's code, right? And there's just stuff that we're not necessarily aware of because we just don't, we haven't thought about it. And that might, if there would be something we could do, I'd be interested in talking.
I'll reach out, Christie.
Yeah,
That's great.
thank you, not to put you on the spot.
I love it.
Oh,
Just-
no, I don't feel on the spot at all. I think that it's a wonderful idea and I think that, I mean, honestly, I think it's important for anyone that wants to be involved in hiring committees to have this awareness. So I'm super happy to share.
And I think some of the faculty that are on, and I have gone through it, I think some of them have. but
They
we can-
have,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's helpful. but-
Yeah.
There are a lot of us that have.
No,
not,
for
so-
sure, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, thank you. And thank you both. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
So we will move to Anne Marie with our pretty regular academic department program review update.
I brought a friend to help tonight.
Hey, Fred.
Good evening, I'm Anne Marie Hamlin, Vice President for Academic Affairs. I use she, her pronouns.
And I'm Tony Russell. I'm one of two transfer instructional deans, and I use he, him pronouns.
And we're here to share with you tonight some information about our department program review process, changes that have been made to it, and things that we've learned from the most recent round of reports that we went through last year. Department and program review, which we'll describe in a little more detail, is part of the larger landscape or ecosystem of assessment at the college, which starts from the strategic plan and goes all the way through course level assessment. So what we're sharing with you is not the entirety of our continuous improvement works, but it is one focus that we've been working on for a number of years. Go ahead and move one slide. So some things we want you to know about this process. It's systematic and regular. So every 5 years, each discipline goes through this process of program review. They do a self-study and work through that process in collaboration, which I'll describe in a moment. This is a little different than our academic unit review process, which happens on a different cycle. We can share that at another time, but this is an every 5-year process for the academic programs. The process is managed by the Office of Director of Assessment and Curriculum, the instructional deans, and myself. Good, thank you. So the self-study that faculty write up about their disciplines is helpful on a number of levels, and I'll just name two. It's certainly helpful to the faculty as a program, because they spend some time thinking about their goals and what they want to do with their programs, what they want for student outcomes. And this gives them an opportunity to reflect on those plans and goals and see how they've done and how they measure up to their own expectations. It's also a report that informs administration of what's going on, what we want to celebrate in some of these programs that are just knocking things out of the park. Challenges that they're facing for any variety of reasons, and plans that they have for the future so that that can inform some of our own planning at these other levels of continuous improvement. The process is collaborative. The report generates from the faculty. They do the research, the writing, but they do work with the dean in reviewing data, analyzing data, and looking at drafts along the way. And deans are good coaches for the faculty groups to say, let's look a little bit about this. What do you think about that? So it's a very collaborative process. And then at the end of that process, the dean, myself, and the Director of Assessment and Curriculum sit down with the faculty who generated that report and provide response and feedback in a discussion format. We do also write up a formal response letter, which Tony will talk about in just a moment. The plans and goals that are laid out in these reports also help administration
make decisions and take action on things like the budget process. What do we need to be thinking about based on the goals of this program as we're going through the budget process this year? They're helpful for us in knowing what the staffing needs are, challenges as well as opportunities. And they're also really helpful as we look toward the future and think about new programs that we might want to implement out of particular districts.
So in years past, we would have referred to department and program reviews as academic program reviews. And that was a faculty-led project. And it would go through a similar sort of process where there were preset questions and data that they would look at. And then they would make a presentation at the end of the year and expect a letter from the administration later on in the year. Now, we spoke with faculty in the last year that we did APRs, and we asked how they thought that process was going. And then that resulted in a survey and some small groups. And we decided that what we needed was the same sort of thing, but probably less of what we were doing. And we could basically streamline a lot of the questions, get to the data that we wanted without a lot of other things at the same time. The presentations became a major stressor for folks, especially when you had smaller departments. If you had a large department, you could have 7 or 8 people involved. Smaller departments, you may have 1 or 2. And so we sort of gave up the presentation to have this more intimate response where the faculty members who worked on it sit with the vice president, with one of the instructional deans, and with the director of curriculum. And they speak about what they think about the goals. They ask questions. They look at maybe sort of the funding requests that they have, and we just have an open conversation about that. Shortly after that, we compose sort of a letter that hits the major highlights, and that way they have something in writing. And for the next year, when they meet with their dean, they can go through those goals. Actually, for the next 5 years, they go through those. So the other thing that I wanted to mention is that we have actually restructured the APR process. So our DPR process is really much closer to the academic unit reviews. From an accreditation standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. We're supposed to be showing that we're all involved in the mission and values of the college. When we have our own department, that should have something to do with what the college is saying. And then when we're making funding decisions, they should be rooted in all of those goals. And AUR did that really well. And so we met with Alicia Moore and her team and talked about what they liked about that process. We stole it and we made something better. And now they're gonna steal stuff from us. That's probably not completely accurate, but partially. All right, excellent. I meant to say borrowing. Did I say stealing something?
Looking at me like I was nuts. So,
I was not.
I'm okay with it. Hey, thank you. That's I just needed one board member to say it was okay. All right, so in our last academic year, we worked with adult basic skills, dental assisting, business, music, automotive, culinary chemistry, and engineering and physics. And you can look at the reports. They are posted on our assessment reports webpage. And once you have a copy of this, you can just click directly to that. And then also the response letter that they received. So there's 2 things next to the name. It'll have the report that they gave and then the response letter that they received.
So I want to share some highlights of the specific, what was it, 8 reports that we had from last year. What I'm going to provide to you is not comprehensive of all of that was in those reports. I'm just sort of pulling out bits and pieces that were representative of things that we were seeing. So we wanted to talk first about the focus that we saw in many of the reports on diversity, equity, and inclusion elements, in particular in recruitment and outreach. One example of that is from the chemistry department, which has had a couple of grants that have supported work that they are doing to attract more middle and high schoolers representing diverse populations to their programs. Let's see, I don't have a name on the first one. The second was an Oregon Pathways to Industry Research Careers grant. They also have developed partnerships with local school districts to provide science coaches in the classrooms of of that particular school district. And the focus there is reaching populations of students who have been historically marginalized. Cascade Culinary Institute, which many of you celebrated last night at the dinner. It's already a program that represents a population that is more diverse than the general population of the college, and we're very proud of that. Part of that may be maybe due to the kind of one-on-one individual work that they do with students. It's quite a high-touch program. Each of those faculty knows those students very much individually. And so they're able to reach the student needs in different ways than they would otherwise. And this is a really intentional focus of theirs. They're also working on developing more curriculum that celebrates the diversity of food culture, as well as the contributors to food culture throughout Central Oregon. A second element has to do with collaboration. Many of our programs collaborate with local partners. You will be very familiar with our music program, for example, and the wonderful opportunities we have to share in what they have to offer. That's been a longstanding commitment. Since the pandemic, they have added live streaming options for the concerts, and that's a real benefit to the community. I'm guessing some of you may have appreciated that. I know that when I haven't been able to make it, I have always appreciated being able to listen online. So that represents not only recovery, but enhancement of the program since the pandemic. The Adult Basic Skills program also has very strong connections with community partners. They offer classes at the WorkSource offices in Bend. They also offer classes on Warm Spring, on the Warm Springs Reservation. So they're reaching to serve many, many student populations. Engineering Physics also has a wonderful collaboration with OSU. They've worked very hard to align their programs and their schedules and of course offerings so that students can move smoothly through the process to attend OSU as an engineering student. And then finally, I just want to highlight the roles of the advisory boards. These are really critical to the success of our CTE programs. And two of the programs that have recently reestablished or reinvigorated their advisory boards, in particular post-pandemic, are business and automotive. Business not only has the in-person meetings of the advisory board, but they also have been looking into various tools, survey tools, et cetera, that can provide even more input from local partners than they do through the advisory board meeting. So there's some real intentional work on that. And then automotive, again, recently reestablished its advisory board. They've got representation from independent auto shops, dealerships, manufacturers, education organizations, industry representatives, and aftermarket suppliers. So it's a nice diverse group of advisory boards. Some of the challenges that we are seeing mentioned in these reports are really important for us to be keeping track of. Recruiting instructors. So all departments are experiencing this, and in part to find well-qualified applicants for these positions. We might particularly focus on CTE programs and engineering, where people can make much more in industry than they would in a job in education. And so that's just an ongoing challenge that we face. Space and equipment are challenges for some programs. The culinary school has benefited from increased enrollment in the last couple of years. So they're a little bit bursting at the seams, and they're working on ways to adjust their course schedules and how they manage classes so that they can fit more students in. This might include shortening some of the longer classes, offering evening and weekend classes or things they're exploring.
Anne-Marie,
Yeah.
you gave us a report not long ago about the redo of schedules and and that's gonna allow us to better utilize space.
It should.
Is that gonna solve, I mean, it might not solve it for culinary who's like sort of in their space, but is that gonna solve some of the space problems or some of the space problems, like, because you also mentioned with equipment, specific to the type of space that's needed?
Yes, there will be some of that. I'm thinking in particular of automotive, which might need different types of space now that they've got new aspects of their program. Manufacturing, for example, new space needs, given the new needs of the curriculum and program. Yeah,
So that's not gonna solve the problem.
not entirely. Wouldn't it be nice? All right, I mentioned automotive, they are needing newer model vehicles for students to work on, as well as equipment to expand their mobile program for small gas engine repair. Additional marketing opportunities, lots of programs that aren't bursting at the seams like culinary are also interested in doing a little bit more marketing to get more students into their programs. Dental assisting is one of those. It's a field that's a high need field in Central Oregon, and yet we still have some space in that program. So we want to do what we can to fill up those spaces and serve the needs of the community with our graduates. And then finally, adapting to other campuses, online environments, and student readiness challenges. I just want to highlight Adult Basic Skills again, who has really done some great work in reaching out to adjust their instruction to include, for example, this year they're working on an online course for GED. And we're very excited to see that develop. They're expanding their use of integrated education and training programs, which you heard described earlier with the manufacturing program. And they're also, that will also help their GED students and those who are seeking to learn English as a second language.
Okay, so a lot of these goals and needs that they express sort of kind of fall from the things that Anne Marie mentioned. And nearly all of the groups want to in some way expand in order to meet more student needs, while recognizing that in many ways we want to consolidate some of the resources that we have. It's especially important that we're meeting our industry expectations and that we're meeting with our advisory boards. And we do a great job at doing that. But in areas such as dental assisting and automotive, for example, it's so important in that constantly changing, those constantly changing areas to stay on top of those things. Basic needs, making sure that our students' basic needs are met, our wraparound services. I know that as a campus, we're working to try to consolidate some of those areas so that students can kind of go to one space for that. Adult Basic Skills faculty are usually very good at one, identifying those needs, but also identifying where the resources are, and have really done a great job helping us to get those folks on campus so that students have the resources there while they're there. We have a lot of collaboration efforts with OSU Cascades. One that we're particularly proud of is the majority of our engineering students. So when we have an engineering student in ADOT, we have about 20 to 26 of those students each year. Nearly all of them will go to OSU Cascades. And a lot of that has to do with the arrangement that we have with one another. They have a newer faculty member this year, and that faculty member is actually teaching a course for us in the fall. And so the students this year and this year's cohort will know that faculty member, and that also should ease that transition. There are some of our areas who would like to increase their visibility. It's hard to advertise for chemistry and engineering and physics, and they are areas that I think would benefit. I think we see fewer students than we would expect in those areas, whereas in a program like culinary, we almost don't know what to do with ourselves, and so we're having to kind of play catch up.
Because science is really hard.
I guess so. Apparently it is. But the students do so well in it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's intimidating to people like me.
I'm just playing. I majored in humanities, I didn't do well. It was just like, oh, I can set this on fire. Yes, I can do that. All right, so a lot of what we've done too is these areas are looking at the spaces that they're in and just sort of reevaluating them. I think Michael Lalonde has been wonderful with this, and Josh Clausen as well, in helping us to recognize that there are spaces where we can make small changes that make a big difference in how classes are held and how the learning appears there. Finally, Anne Marie mentioned staffing and training. If you think it's hard to hire a full-time person to do engineering or mathematics or chemistry, imagine trying to find someone part-time to do that. That's already a big challenge. Our demand for online courses is difficult to meet. We want to, and we're doing things to do it. We'd like to do it faster if we could. But a lot of what makes it difficult is if someone has not already been trained as an online instructor, it takes time to do that. And oftentimes when you get an expert in a field, like engineering, for example, they don't come prepackaged as a great online instructor. And so you have to take time training them to do that. And then finally, one of the great things about the DPR process is that faculty members are looking at diversity, equity, and inclusion data, and they're asking questions like, why? Why does this happen? Why do we notice this trend? And then the natural corollary to that is, what do we do about it? And sometimes they have things that they want to do right off the bat, and sometimes they say, really, we really need some professional development to figure out what is the best thing to do, because they want to preserve the students that they have. They recognize the kind of sacrifices that the students make to get here. And so it hurts when you see a drop off between year 1 and year 2 in a cohort. And so they're very much interested in having that not happen. So.
Can you give an example of that?
I can. So in one case, we look at engineering, for example, where we'll get an influx of students who identify as female, which is great. We want that. But if we lose the growth, or if we lose, we certainly don't lose all of these students, but if we take a significant loss from year to year, then we know that there's something that we're not doing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So our goal in bringing this to you this evening is to share with you a little bit about what we learned through the department and program review process last year. It's been helpful to us as administrators, and we want to bring it to all of the leaders of the institution, so you're aware of some of the particular things to celebrate, as well as challenges that our programs experience. And we'd be delighted to take any questions that you have at this point.
Anybody have questions?
Good job.
It's one question, just because I'm curious. So you're always going through this process as the evaluators, and then the departments do it every 5 years. Is that what I heard? But then you kind of this group this year,
Yes.
this group the next year,
Yes.
because you can't do them all at once. That
Correct.
wouldn't be, okay.
Yeah, it's about
Clarity on that.
8 to 10 groups per year.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you that oftentimes what will happen as a dean, I'll have, as I'm meeting with folks, I'll have their DPR goals there. And, you know, over time, I'll write in where they've met those goals. And there have been cases where they just cleared them all really quickly. And so we just decide on something else before the next DPR. It's nice. Usually happens with math people.
Maybe they're not being ambitious then.
Well, no, that's not the problem at all. They're super ambitious. They
They are.
went through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
More ambition to give.
Right.
Great.
Thank you. That was really interesting to hear that process.
It
Really
was-
important.
It was really interesting, and I love that you adjusted it kind of based on what you were seeing, and, you know, it can still be really helpful, but it can take less time and be less stress.
Yeah.
That seems like a no-brainer,
Very much the
but
case.
I don't, if you hadn't been open to doing that, I don't think you would have gotten to that point, so
Yeah.
great job.
We were happy that they were open to telling us. It's always nice. Trust.
There we go.
And I asked Lori about online education, and so, or online classes. And so I was very interested, and I just thought the rest of the board might be interested to know that we do, and I bring this up because I understand you're co-chair of the committee that is looking at ways that we can expand that, continuing the work that we've been doing on trying to expand that and such, so.
I did chat with Tony the other day, and I said, you know, be ready, because I think the board may ask you to come give a report on that.
Well, I was just gonna
That's
ask that without
project.
trying to put, you know, him right on the spot, so since you mentioned it. Yeah, I think that would be kind of cool, because we haven't really had an update on what our efforts are about getting more classes online and improving the quality of the instruction and the materials for like those that are not. Because there are classes that are offered like completely online, and then there's some that are hybrid, right? And it takes different skills to do these kinds of things, and we kind of lost it. You know, we were getting regular updates before COVID, then COVID kind of forced us to push a whole bunch of stuff forward, but that doesn't mean we don't have things that we can improve and do, and so I thought it would be kind of cool to get an update on that, so.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you're, you know, all the departments are working together, even if you do steal it. But maybe another bit easier description is R&D, rip off and duplicate.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we are now under new business, and I believe we get to invite Michael up here to talk about roofs.
And Josh,
and Josh.
because I know very little about roofs.
Oh yeah, sorry, Josh, you're on there too.
So, in your packet is a notice of intent to award contract. The bids that we've received for the request for bid and a resolution, which would approve the awarding the bid as well as expending more than we are allowed to do internally, which I think is anything over $100,000. So the situation is that the roofs for Ochiko Annex and Modoc Hall are way past due on being replaced to the extent where we can't even walk on the roof. It's completely failing. It's currently leaking. And we had a third party come in and evaluate the roof. We did not think it was as bad as it is. But we're really concerned about snowfall and the roof being able to go through. Definitely a heavy snowfall. So I'll turn it over to the expert, Josh, who knows everything about roofs.
Yeah, sorry, I meant to be there, but I had to grab a plunger and fix something here in Bend. So I have a glamorous job sometimes. So we engaged A-Tech Northwest. They're our roofing consultants. We did a moisture study on Ochiko Annex and Modoc, and we determined that we've had some moisture damage in the underlayment of those roofs to the extent that we can't guarantee stability, if we get a heavy snow load. So we pivoted really quick and issued an RFP. We've got several respondents, and these are all very competitive. We got a good price, and we're hoping to move forward with AM1 Roofing.
One thing they will do in addition to replacing the roof is that they will replace the cedar, which is around the roof. And we've gone to a metal roofing material for that instead, because we just think it lasts a lot longer and makes a lot more sense too. And fire resistant.
And it's fire resistant, yeah.
And Josh, you felt like, because it's great that it's low bid, but it was also responsive and you felt like they've got a good track record and everything.
Yeah, they just completed the re-roofing of Pioneer. So we worked with them very closely with that, and they've got a very good track record and great crew. And
right.
AM1 is a local company here in Bend. And so, it's, this is all they're going to be working on. So they're going to be, moving all the resources to help us finish this.
So the goal is to finish before Thanksgiving, but I was a little concerned about what if we get a snowfall before then, could it be an issue? So the first thing they do is come in and weatherproof the roof, is that correct, Josh?
Yeah, they, as they're pulling off the old roof, they're weatherproofing right behind it, with basically a temporary roof. And so every day before they leave, it could rain and we would be okay.
The rain or snow?
Rain or snow.
There wouldn't be any impact on buildings during this time.
No.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, there shouldn't be any impact on building operations. We'll be able to go through and day by day tell building users where they're going to be working, and if there's any people with auditory issues where they need to be somewhere quiet, we can rearrange that and move them around.
So this is within the budget that was approved appropriation, so we do have the ability to do it. There may be some other reasons we have to come back for a budget adjustment within the capital projects fund, possibly next month, for some other things that you've approved, like the funding of the Madras campus, which we haven't approved yet, currently in the budget.
Okay, does anybody have any, questions for Josh or for Michael?
I'll make a motion to be it resolved that Central Oregon Community College Board of Directors approve the AM1 roofing contract in the amount of $1,299,835 to replace the roofs at Modoc Hall, Litchfield Hall, and Litchfield Ends.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve that bid.
Sorry,
Yes.
just interrupt for a second. One of the other fun new rules is that all says results of all votes shall be recorded, including the vote of each individual governing body member by name.
Okay.
So I just wanted to.
So roll call.
So, well, I don't think we have to do a roll call. We just have to note who raises their hand or says
As long
no
as-
for.
As long as everyone is clear, and if you're abstaining, you need to let people know. And so.
So all those in favor, to make it easy on Kyle, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand and saying aye. Any opposed, please indicate by saying no and raising your hand. Noting none, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And thank you, Josh, very much.
Yeah, thank you.
And sorry to pull you away from the plunger.
No, oh, no, that was my pleasure.
And thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Okay, that moves us to Board of Directors Operations, and Erica, we are on the second reading of the new board member orientation policy.
Yes, we are. So does anybody have any questions?
We did just a couple minor cleanups, right?
Yep. Mhm. It was like spelling out the initialisms and acronyms and something else.
We added a couple minor things.
Yes.
But it,
Everyone had a chance to look at it. Anyone have concerns or comments? If not, we do need a motion to approve it as this is a second read.
so moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the second reading of the new board member orientation policy. Is there any discussion? Noting none, all those in favor, please say aye, and to make it easy for Kyle, raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say no or raise your hand. Motion carried unanimously.
We did it.
Yay,
Yay.
we have an official policy in that now. Okay, so we have added a new item to the agenda just to keep everybody informed of what the committees are doing, because we had some good feedback at the retreat that some folks sometimes feel like if they don't hear a report from the board, the committees wondering kind of what we're doing. So we are going to start with the OCCA board, for which Erin Merz is our representative.
Yes, this was my first board meeting. I selected items that I thought were most pertinent to report out on, but Lori was also there. So if I miss anything, please chime in. Might be at risk of over reporting here, but I'm gonna go for it. So we heard updates from several different groups at that meeting. One was the Oregon School Boards Association, of which we pay dues to be a member, and we pay those dues to OCCA, and they pay on behalf of all of the colleges. Those dues have not increased since 98, 99. And so they have prepared a resolution for colleges to consider increase in dues. It's a 5-year increase, scaled increase, and then every year thereafter will increase based on the consumer price index. That is a very brief summary. The resolution is a full page long. I'm not certain as to when we are supposed to entertain that resolution.
That isn't clear yet. My sense is OSBA is floating this proposal to a number of places, including all the Oregon school boards, K-12. So, they'll let OCCA know when they're asking for a vote from each member. Now, the reason that the increases are really pretty notable, but the reason we would almost certainly want to do this, again, this is your decision, is that they are the body through which we get our access to PACE at a very reasonable cost. And so I think what you were hearing at the meeting, Erin, was everybody going, what else are you gonna do for us with more money? Because we already get PACE and they don't have an answer to that, but,
What's the dollar difference gonna be for us?
So I didn't know where we fell on that chart, so I don't actually know that.
yeah, I don't have it with me.
Yeah,
Don't quote me, maybe $25,000 a year. I mean, it's significant in terms of what we've been paying, but not so much in the grand scheme of things. I can get that number for you. I don't have it in my head and.
I was just
Yeah.
looking for a range or, ballpark.
so we'll see. The Oregon Education Association gave a brief update of a few things. Top of mind, working to elect pro-education candidates. There are rising concerns about violent behavior and safety in classrooms. I haven't heard a lot of that happening at COCC, but if there's been an increase, but that seems to be a trend in some mental health issues.
Yeah. Our faculty association is independent. It's not affiliated with OEA. So,
Okay.
so when they speak, they may have some interaction with our faculty, but there's no formal relationship
Okay,
or formal and consistent reporting mechanism.
that's helpful.
Does OEA represent anybody at college level? No, it doesn't. OEA doesn't represent anyone at a college level. They're just a
Yeah,
voice,
they're
right? Like
K-12.
an advocacy organization in the state, but not representing anyone at.
I don't know if they're K-12, our classified and faculty association are independent. They don't belong to any national union. And Laura Bomey, I'm gonna have to ask you, what affiliation does our adult basic skills?
OSCA, which also does K-12. So, yeah, so I think that my understanding is that a bargaining unit can be affiliated with any other bargaining unit should they want to be. So if they wanted to be part of OEA, they could, but the ABS folks are OSCA.
So I guess my next point by them, and please, I'm still learning, being new to this board, because they discussed the transfer council. So, and that's a.
There is a transfer council at the state level created by the legislature and sort of organized by the HEC to help facilitate conversations between community college and university faculty to improve transfer. And transfer is a very contentious issue in universities and colleges. And so what I think she is saying is that there continues to be some disagreement.
Mhm.
I don't know that it is currently more notable than it's been at other
Got it,
times.
noted.
Aaron, if it's helpful, our dean of enrollment management is never at the transfer.
Great, thanks. September legislative days, happened recently. Our assistant professor of nursing, Kristen Lambert, did participate. She gave an update on the BSN. OCCA presented a list of legislative and regulatory policy positions. It's meant to be an internal doc and not messaging points, but I think it would be very helpful for all board members to be aware of its, points that the staff then use in their day-to-day work.
Yeah.
And so I think it would be good to circulate that as an FYI.
Absolutely, boards can, what they meant by it's not a more public document, we don't hand that to a legislator and say, we're gonna do this.
Yeah.
It informs our work and, I think I must have the latest copy and I will send it along.
Great,
Or
thanks.
we'll find it, send it along.
Thanks. They are working on a legislative advocacy plan and the board, Lori thinks we are expected to get a version of that in December. That we can share with the advocacy committee, of course, and more broadly with the board.
The
And-
OCCA board officially adopts
Thank you.
the advocacy agenda.
Yes. And then, I had Kyle print these out, so everyone has it handy. Just priorities with getting the best possible increase, for the community college support fund. So you have some information here on this one pager. And then it was discussed about increasing available amount of money for capital construction projects from $8 million to $12 million. And that is separate from this, right, Lori? That is a separate.
It is a recent idea that has come up, because there have, for various reasons, there have been some ongoing discussion about capital construction amongst some community colleges who have some unique challenges.
So that's what stood out to me. There were many other topics discussed. There is an advocacy training tomorrow. I will be participating in that. Great, you will too. They are recording that, and so you can share that if we find it will be helpful for others, especially, you know, the advocacy committee. But happy to share that once it's shared with us. How'd I do, Lori?
I think you did great.
Thanks.
I was feeling for you because they're,
It's a lot.
well, it's just a lot and, they go really fast and, you know, not everything that's discussed is really necessarily of particular interest to every community college. So it's kind of hard to figure. And you got about a 50, did you notice the first item on the agenda was orientation? You got about 15 minutes. So I was feeling pretty good about our orientation. After they gave you a whole 15 minutes, I'm like, ooh, okay.
No, it was great. I'm happy to now serve on the board.
Thank you, Erin.
You're welcome.
Joe, real estate.
We do have discussion points, or we have an executive session on different items that we need to cover through. Nothing to report at this point in time.
Okay, and Erin, we have advocacy committee.
So our new advocacy committee met for the first time on September 20th. It's Laura, myself and Erin. We spent some time in that meeting just reviewing and updating our committee charge just a little bit. Erin had provided some edits that hadn't quite made it into a version that you saw, and we followed up from there. And so essentially the mission kind of coming out of that meeting is that our committee will devise and implement advocacy strategies to achieve board goals. So you all of our work will be supporting the board goals that have been identified. Our next step is for the committee to host a conversation at the upcoming retreat on November 1, and we'll be talking about what those advocacy priorities will be. And we hope to leave that retreat with some pretty clear direction from you all on that. And from there, we'll be kind of looking to OCCA and ACCT, kind of to kind of pull together those advocacy objectives into a bit of a strategy. Knowing that OCCA won't finish theirs until December might matter to when we actually feel like we can formally approve our own approach. I was thinking maybe we could do that at our November board meeting, but we might need to be a little more flexible about that. And from there, we'll just be kind of executing that plan over the course of the year, and we're still working out, and we'll hear from you what some of those priorities could be, especially as they align with like a presidential search. What does it look like for us to support board goals as an advocacy committee when that's our top priority or something? So from here, we'll meet every Friday at 3 p.m.
Not every Friday.
Third Friday of every month. One final note, and it's just something we haven't had a chance to touch base on. We do not have a seat formally on OCCA's legislative committee, right, Lori? I don't think you're on that committee.
No,
this
I'm
year.
not. I didn't
Okay.
ask to be on it.
I think it will be okay. We'll attend OCCA's weekly legislative update calls, and Erin being on the board, we can stay pretty closely in line.
Right. Thank you, Erin. And that reminds me, just to remind everybody, the discussion that we'll have about what we want our advocacy goals to be. That this is one of our priorities that we've identified or adopted as a goal for this upcoming year. Not the advocacy committee specifically, but getting the new committees of the advocacy, the the board orientation committees going and, you know, having them get some momentum and get the resources and the assistance that they need. So that's one of the reasons why we'll focus on it at our next, as one of the items in our next retreat. Also, just a reminder, if you haven't done your, it's not disc. Strengths finder, please do it, and get it returned. We still got a little bit more time, but nobody wants to be doing it 5 minutes before it's due, right? That was directed at myself.
Yeah, it takes longer than 5 minutes, Laura, so maybe 25 minutes.
I did it once before. Okay, so that brings us to the presidential search update and profile. And I've said it before, and I'm gonna say it again, because it just bears repeating. I think I really, really would like to, from the bottom of my heart, thank Zach, because he's got a real job every day, and he's been doing a ton to help us. So thank you very much. And along those lines, Kyle and Lori as well have been a great help when we've had questions, and Lori's great because she's staying out of the whole process, but we can go to her and say, so when we did this, was it weird or did it work? You know? And how, you saw their search, you know, so it's just been really valuable, and Kyle just kind of takes care of everything quickly and efficiently and no complaining. So we appreciate you guys. So thanks. So we have 2 items under the presidential search update and profile. And I would like to take the profile first, and coincidentally, it is numbered before that one. So that's great. So here's the deal with the presidential profile. We had our first, you remember we had a special board meeting. I cannot remember the date. It was August. And we adopted, yeah, it's on the schedule. And we adopted at that point the presidential profile. We did have a public comment section. No one, you know, made comments about it. And we adopted it. But then we took it to the search committee, and we got some questions from the search committee. And most of them we were able to, you know, explain why it was this way or that way. But there were 2 that Erica and I, on follow-up, we thought a little bit about it further. We talked with Zach, we talked with Lori, and we thought, you know what, we'll bring this to the board, a couple of minor revisions. And those were, the input that we got was about, number 1 is the fact that sustainability is an important value that's reflected in our strategic plan. And it's something that we as a board have discussed before, and it is not in the profile specifically, and particularly the president's climate change commitment that Lori signed. We want the next person to know that this is a value that we wish to be upheld. And so the proposal is to put an additional item under characteristics and experience, and that is advancing campus environmental sustainability efforts. And then the other one was to try to be a little bit more specific and prioritizing of our DEIB efforts. As you guys know, we redid our policies 3 years ago, 2 years ago, specifically to weave that throughout our board policies, and it is also reflected in our strategic plan. But given that it's an important value, we can't assume that everybody's gonna read those documents and glean, oh yeah, that's important to them. So we thought we would propose adding that as well under characteristics and experience. And then that's the reason why the first paragraph says, and guided by the college's 2023-27 strategic plan. We thought important to just reference that there. I remember it was really impressive the last time we went through this search when a candidate would actually ask us a question about a specific item in the strategic plan. They actually read it. And we think by calling it out right here, it will get the candidates perhaps to think, oh, maybe I should look at that. So those are the proposals that we have. Erica, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Well, the committee is amazing. So we got together, they made some very, very good points. They had very thoughtful questions. And so we're so grateful that for the people that agreed to be part of it. Amy is one of the members that I'm looking at. So thank you all for pointing them out. And then after reflection, there were some things that we wanted to give higher priority to or to focus on that maybe wasn't reflected in the original, even though it is part of our values and what we appreciate. So thank you to them.
Anybody have any comments or concerns or?
When does the committee meet next?
The committee meets next the position closes on October 18th. The matrix goes to the consultant over that weekend. He'll return that back out to the group. You don't have your full, I just sent you that today, Laura. Let me open it up there.
Yeah.
I think it's November 11th, but let me see if I have that.
We're in the process right now.
Open, some version of this is not being used right now.
That's
The
correct.
The old version is
active
being used.
search.
That's
Oh,
correct.
the old version.
Yeah,
That's
and we
correct.
just wanna
we're just
update
update it.
Yeah,
Okay, got
we
it.
didn't want to put this up until it had been approved by the board.
Got it.
But the old versions are up and publicized and used. The page
Got
that you
it.
see, what we call, remember the glory page,
Yes.
now way too often cited, just reflects the profile.
Yep.
And we're ready to make that change as soon as the board approves.
Okay.
Yeah, and so just to let you know, right, what Zach was talking about, when the application closes, Preston will still accept subsequent applications if there's, if they're compelling, et cetera, but that's really, if you want your application to be viewed, probably in the best light, turn it in by that deadline, and then Preston's gonna send them out to all of the members of the committee electronically through a secured portal, so we will all then spend 10 days going through all of the applications that he deems to meet the minimum qualifications. And that's a pretty low threshold. He doesn't cut out a lot of people.
Laura, might I add two quick things? He also will, for any applicants in the pool, once it's approved, send them the updated profile and page. And to your answer, the 12th of November, the day after Veterans Day here.
That's what I was just gonna say. And so then that gives us like 10 days for all of us to like put our stuff in, give it to Preston. He then assembles it all and then the committee will meet and discuss them. So any questions or comments about these changes? Do we have any requests for public comment on the? No, okay. All right.
Job.
I remembered. Okay, so hearing no public comment and hearing no concerns from the board, do we have a motion to approve the updated presidential profile?
I would so move.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the updated presidential profile. Is there any further discussion? None noted. So all those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say no and raise your hand. Noting none, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And that brings us to the process. So under public meetings law, we adopt the procedure by which we're going to go and hire the president. And we did that before, but we realized we did not have a comprehensive policy written down. We adopted it at our retreat in the summer. And our minutes did not go through the specific detail of that. So we thought, working with Paul, that we would bring together, or we would put it together and bring it to you. This reflects the things we've done thus far, and then how the rest of this is going to be done in the future. And I think that one thing that was particularly helpful, I've received a number of questions from folks on campus wanting to know what will be the process when the finalists come on campus. Will we have an opportunity to meet them, to weigh in, to provide feedback? And I think by putting this in writing, it allows folks who are faculty, who are classified staff administrators to know, and branch campuses, and to know that they're gonna have an opportunity to meet these folks. And they'll, get an opportunity as well to come back and give us some feedback on them. So I think this does a lot of good things besides just making sure that we are doing proper public meetings hygiene. I think it also is a good thing. So anybody or anything you want to add?
No, it looks great. I think it's good to have it written down so everybody's clear on the process, so.
Thank you. I want it noted, please, that I did not prepare it as legal counsel to the board. That is Paul. I simply worked with Paul as board chair. But I just wanted to clarify that. Okay, so does anyone have any changes or comments? Concerns? Paul, did you want to say anything? You looked a little quizzical.
That's how I look.
Okay. All right, well, hearing none, are there any comments on the Zoom? Any public comment or public requests to comment? Noting none, we have a motion to approve the formal process.
I'll do one. Be it resolved that Central Oregon Community College Board of Directors adopts the presidential search process as it is presented in this resolution as the hiring standards and affirms that the presidential profile and board governance policies on the board president relationship BPR -1-7 and the board expectations of the president BEP 1-8 are the hiring criteria and policy directives applicable to the employment of the college's next president. That's all I'm with.
Yeah, I think that actually encompasses the one we already approved as well, but I don't think that really matters. Thank you, Alan. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Noting none, all those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed, please indicate by raising your hand and saying no. Noting none, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We're making things easy for Kyle right now. So before we go to board members' activities, I just wanted to give one reminder because this whole thing has been a good reminder that we need to be really careful about making sure we do not run afoul of public meetings law in Oregon. And I mean, I think that there's never been an intention of us to run afoul, but I don't know that we've always been aware of the little details of everything that we need to do. And given that the law changed a while back and now we can be fined personally for violations of the public meetings law. And the correction is not just have another meeting, it's like get in trouble, like individually. We need to be even more vigilant, I think. And so you may recall that Lori sent out an email to us a few weeks ago. In case you missed it, go look. It was around mid-September, or maybe Lori might even be willing to resend it. But we need to have, as elected public officials, which we are as public officials, for at least one time in every term that we have to go through the formal training that the Ethics Commission puts on. And they are free and they are available on a web-based format. And so like, I'm taking mine, I think next week on the 18th or 16th or something like that. Yeah, it's Oregon Ethics Commission does it. It's at, next week it's 1 to, wow, it can't be 5 hours, but I got times wrong. Anyway, it is free. You register online. They do fill up. There's a limited number for each session. So get on there and get it, because as soon as you take it, then you can forget that you have to, then you don't have to do it until your next term. But also it's really important to understand. And there's a lot of that stuff that's not necessarily intuitive. Paul, what did I miss on that?
I don't think anything. It sort of rolled up on us a little surprisingly, and so we're in the middle of making that memo a little more readable.
Okay.
For all of our public board clients.
Part of the issue is that the law came into effect, I think, this year, but the training sessions weren't ready until I think like this summer.
Right, and there are a bunch of groups who want to be approved to do their own trainings, and they haven't gotten that process underway yet either, so.
So right now, we've got a lot of people potentially competing for the limited number that the Oregon Ethics.
They are filling up.
Yeah, that's,
I tried to register when it was full, and so I did the next one, so definitely.
yeah, so go, I think, Lori, you don't mind resending that email so that folks can.
I'm gonna try to
can
find
pull
it,
that out.
and
Okay.
if I can't get it tonight, I'll get it tomorrow.
Thank you. Just wanted to remind everybody about that because sometimes we drown in emails and can miss some.
Yeah.
Okay, so that brings us to board member activities, and may we start with you, Mr. Chief Porter?
Sure. To pay attention for missing the September 11th meeting, I watched it on YouTube. Every bit of it. I appreciate your guys' patience. We had family issues we had to take care of. Illness. Thank you for all the support I got from all of you. October 1st, I attended the real estate meeting. October 1st, I got a whole Lori, got an update on what I missed. And kind of review of the retreat. I met with Erica also at a later date. I don't have it written down.
The 7th.
7th, thank you. Maybe with Erica on the 7th. And we went over the update of the orientation committee that I'm part of, and also an update on that. That's it.
Thank you. Erica.
On the 14th, I attended the board retreat, September 14th, which
that feels like so long ago. When I was looking back, I was like, oh, that was within the last one, so. Okay, and then, September 17th, we had our presidential search committee kickoff and the public comment section or open meeting. On, September 19th, I had a call with Lori, and I believe I spoke to Zach on that same day or the day before. I couldn't find it exactly. On the 30th, this is through my work, but I attended there's a joint meeting between COCC and, our programs at St. Charles, and so I attended that meeting, which is fantastic to see the progress from, 6-7 years ago of how the communication and collaboration was working and where we're at today with it. So thank you to everybody who was part of that process, and, yeah, really inspiring and makes me so happy. On October 7th, I met with Jim for coffee. On October 8th, which was last night, I went to the COCC Feast at the Old Mill. And then today I attended the COCC Advisory Board meeting and the clinical partner meeting with ASIN, which is the accrediting body for nursing education, which is really interesting because they talked about the review of the programs, but also how we've set up our advisory boards. They really are a place where COCC is asking, what does the community need? And you all are acting on it, which is fantastic. And so it was an interesting process. It's 3 peers who come and they're validating, they ask questions, they think they know the answers, and then they go to members and they validate to, see if it's true. And by the end of it, they were like, this is fantastic. Like, we're gonna look at real estate. So they felt like yes. Yeah. So they felt like what they were hearing and what they've been experiencing in the community and at COCC for the nursing program was that it was a fantastic program, and that our students are doing an awesome job in the roles that they're going into, and that we're really working with the community to prepare them for the roles. So yeah, that's great. And I talked to you today.
And you and I had a call today.
We connected, so that's good.
Oh, okay. I also attended the retreat on October 1st. I had a real estate committee meeting. And one of the Sundays in September, I went to a fundraising event at a local
September 15th.
September 15th. The reason that Laura knows that is because she was there as well. But we went to a fundraising event for our internship program that's being implemented in Madras at the St. Charles Hospital and surrounding medical facilities. Laura gave a great presentation, and COCC was brought up many times, and these were one of my conversations. In my conversations, in particular, the new building and the opportunities it's going to be given to our community. We'll keep forward. It was really I was very prideful of being there, hearing other people talk about us. So.
Great. On Saturday, September 14th, I attended the board retreat. On Friday, September 20th, I attended the advocacy committee meeting. On Friday, October 4th, I attended the OCCA board meeting. On Tuesday, October 8th, yesterday, I attended the OCCA DEI committee meeting. So I'm on that in addition to serving on the board. And I just want to thank Alan for passing the torch there.
Yeah, I'm glad you're moving forward.
Okay, well, I mean, it means a lot. I know you've been serving in that capacity for a long time. So I'm excited to engage there. Yesterday in the DEI committee, we were presented with a multicultural organization developmental stage model. And we reviewed the stages of that, essentially from 1 to 6. 1, you're a monocultural organization, and 6, you're a multicultural organization. And then we broke out. I wish Christy had been there because I'm sure her and I have different perspectives of this. And then we assessed where we thought our college sat on that spectrum. It was a really cool picture. I got to meet some new people through that. And then yesterday I also attended the feast. Congratulations, Zach and team. It was a great event. Seemed really successful.
Thank you for being there.
Yeah.
And Astrid was amazing.
Yeah. Oh my
Astrid was
God.
fantastic.
Well, like Jen, I was out, for a bit in September. Thank you all for, being so gracious. And so I'm going all the way back to August 1, the presidential search committee, meeting at CSCC, and then, a student success committee, September 4. Met with Lori and with Laura and Erica before I headed out of town, right before the retreat. Thank you all for great conversations. September 20th, in our first advocacy committee, and just a good time to know, email with the OCCA folks. I'm gonna be on the student success committee with OCCA there. So those some, learning hopefully things bring back to our.
So I attended the board retreat, and on the first, I attended half a real estate committee meeting.
Yeah, and I should say for that, well, I should say, and thank you for that, Alan. We can't have, Alan is my sub when I have a conflict, or I should say, I'm his sub when there's, anyway. And so while there were 4 of us at the real estate committee meeting, there were never more than 3 at a time. So, thank you. So I had also attended the retreat on the 14th of September, and I want to particularly just publicly give huge kudos to Christy Walker for number 1, adjusting her schedule to accommodate us to do that training in September instead of November. And number 2, it was just a really terrific training. On the 15th of September, I also attended the Madras St. Charles event. And as Joe said, it was a fundraiser for the residency program that they're initiating in Madras, but it's going to benefit the whole region because these doctors in training are going to be doing, I guess, rotations, thank you. Yeah, in various places, and it's a huge deal to be able to get residents here, because you get residents here, it's more likely that they'll stay here to practice. And I really want to thank Lori, because they wanted us there, because they wanted to be able to, number 1, from Rick Allen's house, you can see where our construction is going on. But number 2, they wanted us to talk a little bit about the healthcare programs that we're going to offer at that facility, and also the childcare, and to be able to share how that's going to improve capacity of healthcare providers in the area. So thank you to Lori for giving me the quick, I mean, I knew it in broad parameters, but they wanted to know how many and exactly when, and so that was very helpful. On the 17th of September, I attended the search committee. On the 18th of September, I had a phone call with Lori. On the 19th, I had a conference call with Zach and Lori and Erica. On the 18th, I had, also on the 18th, I'm going back again, I had a call with Paul Taylor. On the 20th, I had a call with Lori. On the 20th, I had the advocacy committee. On the 27th, I had another call with Lori. On the 1st of October, I had a real estate committee. On the 3rd of October, I had a call with Lori. On the 4th of October, Paul and I got to chat again. On the 8th of October, another call with Lori. And then on the 9th of October, today, a call with Erica. And just I'll get one last little thing. This year, my husband and I and Anthony has donated a live item to the auction at the meal of the year. And so my husband and I donated the wine, and Anthony's is donating the venue and the food. And we are doing that tomorrow. Oh, fun. So
Thank you.
I'm kind of excited about that. Okay, so that moves us to the president's report. So I'll turn it over to you, Lori.
Sure. I'm gonna reiterate some good news that I know I put in my most recent update, but enrollment continues to be really positive for this fall. As of this past Monday, in a point in time comparison to last fall, we're up 4% in FTE and 2.5% in head count. But the really even more interesting point of our enrollment increase is the increases we're seeing at our branch campuses. Redmond is up 12% point in time from last year, Madras 20%, and Prineville. I had to ask if this was a typo. Did you leave out a decimal? 140%.
Wow.
Now,
They're smallish numbers.
I'm
yes,
I'm gonna be fair, but that's just a lot of work on Cindy's part and on Susan's part and all the faculty that are saying, let's teach in Prineville.
And all
It's
the,
cool.
and all of the leadership that Anne-Marie and you have shown.
Well, Anne-Marie.
Awesome. That is very good. That is pretty wonderful.
Well, it kind of tells you if you build it, they will come. You build it right.
If you build it and you market it and you organize it and you, yeah. Mhm.
Oh, I'm sorry, I had one more thing. That's actually, I'm gonna call on Zach to talk about a really, really cool collaboration between some of our art students, some wonderful art students in Italy and our local Rotary. Tell us about the fresco project.
Yeah, I'll be brief and kind of get into the owl here. So in conjunction with the Rotary Clubs of Bend, the 3 clubs in Bend and, the Bend Belluno Sister City program. We have 3 students in our art program go with our instructor Aaron Bodfish in August to Belluno to paint a fresco. A traditional fresco, that's with a capital F, as I've learned. Very particular how you paint an Italian fresco. And then in turn, those students, 3 Italian students and the fresco maestro and some other Rotarians are now in Bend right now. I think hopefully they went maybe to bed, they're painting now. So they're doing a different fresco in Pinckney. The students there are here and they're staying with different Rotary families in the community. And we're doing a small reception tomorrow night just for the Rotarians and for the students to kind of unveil it. And then we'll do a larger event with our student art showcase, either at the end of this term or in the winter term. And we'll invite all of you to that. It's a pretty cool program where we've got Italian students and artists and CSC student and artists going back and forth and doing this cultural exchange. You guys, a lot of you know I'm involved with the youth exchange program, so that's how I got a little bit roped into this one and a Rotarian. And so we've been doing some fundraising as well, and the foundation's picking up a little bit of the difference, but a lot of bumps on this program, to be quite honest with you, because it's the first year we've ever done it, and students going there and gift cards and visas and credit and financial aid hold. So it's been, there are too many people to mention that have helped on this project, but there are a lot, namely Venus Wynn and Aaron Bodfish on our team that really made it happen. I don't know if Josh is still online. Josh worked some extra hours to get the prep ready for the wall because it has to have plaster on it. The Italians were thrilled because our plaster dries a lot faster than theirs. This made up for a 3-day delay in shipping materials. It got held up in customs that came from Italy because we can't use the American products in fresco. Anyway, really cool. I'll share more with you, but it's one of those, I think KTVZ and the Bulletin are gonna do a little piece on it. We didn't really want to put a ton of media on this part because we wanted to get it done on time and because some of the Italian students are under 18. We wanted to really focus on the exchange and letting them do their work. And we do a little bit more of a dog and pony show, if you will, later this term. So
Where in the building is it?
it's right outside, Emery, do you know the wall it's on? Do you know where the Pinckney Auditorium is? It's there's a big open wall there in Pence, that we took an old bulletin board down. And it's gonna be there. And the beauty is there's no light, there's no moisture. So as long as we can keep that building in place, it'll be there for a long time. So be part of kind of that tour when you're up there looking at our art exhibits.
Yeah, and when we tear the building down, there are people in Italy, they're really good at moving fences.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll send something out to all of you when it's done. The one that was painted in Belluno is really cool. It's a picture of the Dolomites and Belluno and then Bend and the mountains and it's bridged together with hops and with the flower of the Dolomites. And this one is a bit different that we're doing in Bend, but all directed by the students. So super cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, that's very cool.
Will you send us the links of any media?
I will. You bet, Joe.
Thanks.
Is that what you've got? That's it. So that just reminds, Zach being there just reminded me of one really important thing. That if you have not yet made a donation to our campaign for the Madras project, it would be gratefully accepted, I am sure.
I'm glad you can reach out to me for details.
Am I correct?
Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate that, Laura.
So anybody on the board, it would be great that we showed our support by making a contribution toward that.
And of course, you can reach out to Zach, but I also put a link to the website where you can donate in the latest updates.
Thank you.
You can do that too.
Perfect, thank you. So there is an online
I
option.
will note that we crossed the $1 million mark in private contributions just this week. That's not the grants, that's not the lottery dollars, that's not the, so individual contributions and bequests have now close to $1 million.
Congratulations.
Fantastic.
They say that's the hardest, right? First line.
We're getting there.
The first one.
All right, so I think everyone can see the dates that are on here, but the one that I would particularly like to draw your attention to is November 1st is our fall retreat, because we like retreating, so that'll be our next retreat. And that brings us to executive session, and so I will read the script here. Thank you, Kyle. The CFCC Board of Directors will now meet in executive session for the purpose of ORS 192-660, Section 2, subsection E, for the purpose of discussing real property transactions. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to please leave the room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. At the end of the executive session, we will return to open session and welcome the audience back into the boardroom. And if there's any action